Welcome to Crime Dissecting. July 8th, 2024, late evening in Homerton, East London. A 3-month-old infant, Kaylani, has stopped breathing. When paramedics rush into the apartment, the scene is instantly chaotic. Medics immediately begin administering life-saving ventilation, trying desperately to clear the infant's airway. But the response from the mother, 24-year-old Nazli Merthoca, is not what they expect. Instead of compliance, she becomes fiercely aggressive, obstructive, and begins filming the medical team on her mobile phone, actively hindering their work. Kaylani is rushed to Homerton Hospital and later transferred to the specialist unit at Great Ormond Street. Medical scans reveal a horrific reality. This was no medical anomaly. Kaylani had suffered catastrophic multi-layered retinal hemorrhages, a detached retina, and severe subdural brain bleeding, the classic, undeniable signatures of violent shaking and blunt force head impact. 15 days later, the infant's life support is withdrawn. The medical police launch a homicide investigation. Initial suspicion falls on both Merthoca and her partner, 35-year-old Herbert Kalanzi. In the interview rooms, Merthoca spins a web of deflection. She claims the baby simply slipped into unconsciousness while feeding. She denies any assault ever took place. But as forensic tech units dig into her mobile devices, a digital paper trail reveals a darker picture. A domestic life defined by toxic, explosive, and mutually abusive behavior between the adults in the home. By the time the case reaches the Old Bailey in late 2025, the legal parameters shift. Herbert Kalanzi is completely cleared of all charges. The focus narrows entirely onto Nazli Merthoca. Confronted with the undeniable forensic pathology, including posterior rib fractures caused by a force the medical examiner described as inappropriate to any normal adult, Merthoca changes her stance. She pleads guilty to manslaughter. To the public, she was a monster, but as the defense counsel Benjamin Aina KC stood before the judge to offer mitigation, the court was forced to look beneath the surface of the crime. They had to look at how Nazli Merthoca was made. Merthoca's life was fractured long before she became a mother. At just 12 years old, an age when children should be navigating secondary school and finding their identity, she was permanently removed from her family and placed into local authority care system. The exact court records detailing why she was taken remain private, but her defense team laid bare the systematic reality of her youth. Her formative years were a carousel of instability, defined by what was described in court as a relentless series of severe bad experiences. For a child in care, stability is rare. For Merthoca, it was non-existent. She was exposed to early trauma, uprooted from her normal developmental milestones, and crucially, left entirely without the early psychological interventions required to heal a fractured mind. Instead of finding safety in the care of the state, her childhood environment only hardened her defense. During the sentencing phase, a comprehensive psychological evaluation was submitted to Judge Mark Lucraft, KC. The report painted a harrowing psychological portrait. The trauma Merthoca experienced during her childhood care years had fundamentally altered her psychological architecture. The psychologist concluded that she had transitioned into adulthood as a profoundly, deeply angry person. Her emotions baseline was permanently set to high alert. She lacked the cognitive tools to process frustration, stress, or vulnerability. To cope with this internal rage, she began self-medicating from a very young age. She turned to heavy chronic cannabis and alcohol abuse, not for recreation, but as a psychological sedative to numb the unresolved trauma of her youth. But substance abuse only masks the symptoms. It did not cure the disease. By the age of 17 and 18, her inner volatility spilled out into the real world. She gained a youth criminal record for physical assault and battery. The state had stepped into care for her at 12, but by her late teens, she was already firmly on the path of criminal aggression. By 2024, the psychological damage of her childhood collided catastrophically with the realities of motherhood. Merthoca was now a 24-year-old mother of 4 children, fathered by 2 different partners. Her oldest child was already living away from her with her natural father. In April of that year, she gave birth prematurely to twins, including Kaylani. Social services were heavily involved. The family was under a strict child protection plan, yet, despite wanting to be a good parent, the toxic mix of volatile domestic relationship, heavy cannabis use, untreated psychological anger, and the immense pressure of caring for premature infants formed a fatal pressure cooker. On July 8th, that pressure cooker exploded. A mother who was never taught how to manage anger took that anger out on a 3-month-old child. In December 2025, the law caught up with the cycle. Judge Mark Lowcraft, KC, took into account her guilty plea and her severe, documented background of childhood trauma. He sentenced Nazli Merthoca to 9 years and 6 months in prison. In the end, this is a case with no winners. It is the story of an innocent child whose life was brutally cut short, and a mother who would spend her youth behind bars. But above all, it is a stark, chilling reminder of what happens when childhood trauma is left to fester in the care system, creating a cycle of violence that passes down from one broken generation to the next. Thank you for watching Crime Dissecting. Please share, follow, and subscribe for more videos.